What is the conjugate training system? To conjugate is to combine different methods at the same time. Instead of focusing on one type of strength like max power output, speed, or hypertrophy, conjugate training develops them all at the same time. This method was popularised mostly by Louis Simmons of Westside Barbell. Some of the greatest powerlifters and athletes have come through this training system. It's not just for powerlifters. People that are in football, MMA, and even just general fitness background can benefit from running this system, just the average Joe in the gym. Conjugate training can be summed up on 4 different pillars. We're going to break down exactly what those are. Number 1, I think most people have heard of this, the max effort method. This is essentially where you focus on lifting heavy. There is one max effort method session for upper body and one max effort session for lower body per week. In this time, in these sessions, you would take a main lift like a squat or a bench press and work up to around about a heavy set of 3, 2, or 1, really just kind of pushing very close to your maximum power output. This method helps drive kind of neurological adaptation to lifting heavy weight, and also really kind of works and relies upon creating mechanical tension in the muscle fibers to create a hypertrophic response. Pillar 2, the dynamic effort method. Instead of lifting your absolute heaviest weights in these sessions, what you focus on is the speed and effort output on a lighter weight, usually somewhere between about 50% and 75% of your 1 rep max. Number 1 focus is lifting them as quickly as possible, and this just really helps develop the kind of explosive power required in multiple sports, but also when it does come to your barbell lifts. It's also really good because it helps create max acceleration, and that is also important in the explosivity of playing a sport, and also when it comes to things like bar speed for powerlifting. The faster you can get your bar speed, the more likely you are to lock a weight out and successfully complete a lift. The third pillar is hypertrophy training. And one of the biggest things about the kind of conjugate system and a lot of the kind of accolades around Westside Barbell and Louis Simmons is the focus on hypertrophic work. A lot of these guys did not let kind of weaknesses form within their physique. A lot of the times, one of the biggest things that can let an athlete or a powerlifter down is having a certain region of muscle undeveloped. So there's definitely a focus of, working kind of in the repetition zones, really getting yourself 8 to 15 reps, making sure that you're doing things that are like specifically targeting your triceps, for instance, because they're a really important muscle group when it comes to power, and they're often neglected in a lot more kind of bare bones style of powerlifting training or strength training. So there is a really kind of big emphasis on filling out your physique. Because the bigger the muscle is, the more kind of power output it can achieve. So yeah, you can focus on neurological adaptations, but by not having a hypertrophic focus, you definitely hold yourself back. Building muscle and reinforcing weak points will always make you stronger overall. The fourth pillar is special exercise selection and fatigue management. So you might see some exercises done by people on conjugate systems, especially Westside, that look a little bit wacky or a little bit new to you. They'll often involve things like bands, chains, boards to press from, boxes to squat on, things that you may not have seen before. And these are really good because a lot of these lifts actually reinforce somewhere that could be weak on a standard lift. If you're someone that bench presses all the time, but you find yourself, really coming shy of lockout, you just can't floss your elbows through and lock it out at the top. Doing a lot of board presses, kind of partial range of motion work, even things that, maybe the exercise gets harder as you go up. All these different kind of accommodating variations will reinforce your weaknesses and make you a lot better at the exercise when you go back to the original variation. This is really important as well because of our max effort days. So with the max effort days, you'll obviously find that you could get beat up very quickly by maxing out so often, but by changing the variation up, you can actually remove about 33% of the fatigue that you would accrue, which makes it a lot more recoverable, but also really keeps you in the pocket of training specific explosive strength. So this has been a lot of talk, and you're probably wondering how to practically put this together. So we'll just go right over that. So Monday, you could find yourself in the gym doing a max effort lower body day. This could be done just by working up to a heavy set of 3 on squats and then just doing some back off accessories. You could then find yourself back in the gym Tuesday doing a max effort upper body day. Much the same, you're working up to a heavy set, maybe a top single on bench press, and you do your back off accessory exercises. You maybe take a break on the Wednesday, come back for the Thursday, and you're doing a dynamic effort lower body day. This is more about speed, so you're doing your speed squats with lighter weights. You're then kind of backing it off, maybe with some more explosive drills. Moving on to Friday, where you find yourself doing a dynamic effort upper body day, finding yourself doing things like speed bench, and once again, just real kind of explosive things. You can even incorporate some plyometrics into this day. Now, all you would do is simply rotate the variations now. So maybe you pick 4 variations and you cycle through them throughout the month. So let's say on your max effort upper body day, you start off with a max bench pressing attempt. After that, you then do a maxing out on the board press. The next week, you can maybe follow that up with maxing out on the incline press. And the week after that, you may find yourself doing some sort of maxing out variation with accommodating resistance by hanging chains on the end of the barbell. Obviously, the variations themselves are entirely up to you, entirely kind of what you want to work on. But you would want to do this for all of your main exercises, is not maxing out the same lift twice in a row kind of thing. You wouldn't want to max out on the same variation more than 2 times in a row. Reason for this being is you would accrue a lot of fatigue, and you're actually negating some of the benefits that come from switching up variations. If you've got a weak point in lift, sometimes these variations can absolutely expose it and target it in a way that it wouldn't be targeted if you just did the same variation over and over again. So by rotating the exercise, you can actually avoid plateaus. A lot of plateaus can actually come, especially in the later phases of training, because of lack of recovery. And this just allows you to keep a finger on the trigger when it comes to pushing yourself and testing your kind of abilities, whilst also keeping recovery observed. So who should use conjugate and who should not? I think powerlifters, if you're seriously wanting to kind of get an edge out, moving away from kind of traditional linear progression can be good. One, because I think powerlifting can get very boring. I think also because it just helps really break through the plateaus and takes a look at potential weak points that you could have got through minimalistic style training. I think it can be quite good as well for athletes, just because the kind of fatigue management, the focus on explosive power. I think it is really good kind of general preparedness training. Of course, that is with the caveat that you don't get too into the kind of equipped side of the conjugate, because I don't think that will really carry over to any given sport. I also think if you're maybe just like a guy that's in your like third year of lifting or whatever, you're finding that the gains are drying up, it's just not kind of like it used to be. I think conjugate can really break through a lot of the plateaus that you've probably built up. It's probably not like anything you've done before, and that novelty will definitely, 1, make the gym more interesting again, and 2, actually cause a physical change to break through those plateaus. Who shouldn't do it? I think it's just too complicated for any type of beginner. If you've never been to the gym before, if you've never really been serious about it, if you've never even really touched a barbell, maybe you go to the gym, you just use the machines. I don't think that this is something that you should dive into straight away. I think you need at least probably 2 years of lifting under your belt before you really consider or need to do something like this. For a beginner, I would more kind of recommend any kind of basic hypertrophy program, or any kind of basic 5x5 routine. This is just far too complicated and kind of unnecessary for you. So that was my very ham-fisted attempt of explaining the conjugate method. Now I'm sure there's probably some inaccuracies. You can correct me in the comments down below, let me know if I've missed anything out, and let me know, have you ran conjugate before? Is it something that you're considering running? And let me know as well, did you enjoy the video? But if you did enjoy the video, please click like, subscribe, and click the bell notification so you can stay up to date with more kind of training deep dives just like this.